Imagine that you are a solitary creature and a bit antisocial that avoids interacting with others of your species. Well, of course, except when it is time to mate. Even so, somehow you will have to communicate with others, right? Surely you can think of many ways. We could call by phone, send an email or a letter by postal mail, or, I don't know, a carrier pigeon, or even smoke signals. But wombats have chosen a rather curious way to transmit information, to communicate through their excrement. And not only that, they are the only animals in the world that produce square feces, or, well, rather, in the shape of a cube or rectangular prisms. A bit strange, right? Well, after many years of wondering what the reason could be, it seems that we already have the answer. So get ready, because today we are going to discover the secrets of these adorable animals, and of course, the enigma of their cubic poop. First, we introduce you to our protagonists of today, the common wombat, or bare-nosed wombat. They are robust animals that have a barrel shape and short and muscular legs. Adults measure between 80 and 115 centimeter in length and can weigh between 20 and 40 kilos. They have limbs equipped with shovel-shaped claws that are perfect for digging long systems of tunnels and burrows. And this is fundamental for their survival, since they provide them shelter against predators, fires, and extreme temperatures. Because heat is not something they like too much. They are nocturnal animals that spend the day in their burrows chilling. By the way, they have another ace up their sleeve to defend themselves against their predators, their armored backside. Their famous rear is hardened by fibrous tissue that they use to block the entrance of their tunnels, which prevents their predators, such as the dingo, from biting other vital areas or entering the burrow. They are marsupial mammals like kangaroos, Tasmanian devils, or koalas. In fact, the latter are their closest relatives that are still alive. Unlike us, the young of marsupials spend very little time inside the mother and come out to the outside at a very early stage of their development. For example, the common wombat spends about 30 days in the uterus, and at birth it is extremely small and barely weighs 2 g. Right after birth, the little one climbs on its own to the pouch, which is a kind of bag that its mother has on her belly. There they attach to the mammary glands to feed and finish developing for about 10 months. By the way, something super curious. We are used to the pouch of kangaroos that opens forward, but in the case of wombats, it happens just the opposite. It is oriented backwards. This is a super useful evolutionary adaptation to prevent the earth from entering the pouch and dirtying the young while the mother digs her burrows. That said, as you can see in this video, this design has a small inconvenience for the young that would not seem hygienic to us at all. And, well, although there are marsupials in America, such as the famous opossums, the greatest variety of these animals is found in Australia, and that is where the only 3 species of wombats that exist live: the common, the southern hairy-nosed, and the northern hairy-nosed. The bad news is that the latter is critically endangered. Only a few hundred individuals remain in very specific areas. We also have to talk about their diet. They are strict herbivores that spend hours feeding on grasses, rushes, bark, and roots. They have a very long digestive tract. This way they can extract the maximum possible energy, since the food remains for a long time in their digestive system. And finally, we are where we wanted to get. We are going to talk about their poop. As we have told you, the poop of the wombat is unique in the animal kingdom for its rectangular prism design. But why does it have that shape? Well, there is the popular myth that they have a square anus. This is ruled out. It is round like that of other mammals. In other animals, the intestines stretch uniformly, but that of the wombat has a rigidity that is variable, and for that, it has sections that are twice as thick and 4 times more rigid than the rest. During muscular contractions, the rigid areas do not deform and flatten the poop, creating the flat faces, and the elastic areas stretch outward, allowing the corners to form. In addition, the end of the wombat's intestine absorbs an enormous amount of water, which causes extreme dehydration. This dryness allows the feces to keep their solid shape once molded. And of course, since the poop is so dry, it cracks and breaks at regular intervals as it advances through the intestine. And ta-da, we already have the final result, so artistic. As you can see, this peculiar geometric shape is not random. It is a masterpiece of engineering, so it must have an important function, right? It turns out that it is a fundamental evolutionary adaptation because wombats use their excrement to communicate with each other. Since they are so solitary, for these animals, their poop is like business cards that they deposit in strategic latrines, and thus they do not have to interact physically. The latrines are elevated places that stand out in the landscape, such as rocks, logs, or entrances of burrows. And here the mystery is solved. In reality, it makes all the sense in the world. The cubic shape prevents the feces from rolling, allowing the message to remain exactly where it was deposited. And this is fundamental to ensure that the signal is easy to locate and smell by other individuals. The excrement works as an individual chemical signature. They contain volatile organic compounds, whose combination and proportion varies from one animal to another, So through them, other wombats can identify who has passed through the area recently, their sex, age, or if, for example, a female is in heat. In addition, these signals also serve to mark territory and know precisely the limits of the area where a wombat has its home. Basically, each latrine is a key point of social information. To process these complex signals, the wombat has a specialized system, the vomeronasal organ. It is an auxiliary organ of the sense of smell that some animals have, and that contains receptors capable of detecting different chemical compounds in the environment and sending information about them to the brain. By the way, the behavior of using feces as a means of communication is something it shares with many other species of mammals. There are many examples, such as the white rhinoceros, that also uses dung to communicate through smell, its sex, age, reproductive status, and territorial status, or the European badger that uses coordinated latrines for the defense of its territory. As you can see, nature never ceases to surprise us. Each peculiarity, however strange it may seem, responds to a key evolutionary adaptation for survival. What did you think of this discovery? Did you already know the fascinating wombat? We read you in the comments, and if you liked it, subscribe so you do not miss more curiosities of the animal world. See you in the next video.